Chapter 6 of The Great Gatsby is all about Gatsby and how he becomes a very well-known wealthy man known as Jay Gatsby.
Gatsby wasn't his name early in his life. He was originally born James Gatz. He was born on his parents' farm in North Dakota. His parents weren't very successful farmers. They actually kind of sucked.
After leaving his parents' farm to go to college at St. Olaf's in Minnesota, he dropped out after only 2 months. Said that the janitorial work he had to do to be able to pay his tuition was too much. Despising the janitor's work with which he was to pay his way through.
After dropping out of St. Olaf's in Minnesota, Fitzgerald used the term drifted back to show how Gatz had no intention of traveling to Lake Superior, but that's just where he ended up.
While living near Lake Superior in a place called Little Grove Bay, a man named Dan Cody appeared where Gatz was living. Cody's yacht had stopped there. Cody was a man that grew very rich off the various metal rushes that had happened.
Fitzgerald then tries to explain how Cody isn't really smart with his money. Physically robust, but on the verge of soft-mindedness. And suspecting this, an infinite amount of women tried to separate him from his money.
This shows that Cody was not only physically robust, but also not smart who he fell in love with, and what his lover's intentions were. All that aside, Cody asked Gatz a few questions. One of the questions was the reason why Gatz became Jay Gatsby. But then Cody took James Gatz, now Jay Gatsby, aboard and employed him.
Gatsby then became Cody's steward, mate, skipper, secretary, and even jailer. This was the beginning of how Gatsby became who he is today.
Yeah.
Gatsby and Cody worked together for about 5 years before something happened. Fitzgerald states Ella Kay came aboard one night in Boston, and a week later Dan Cody was in the hospital.
After talking about how Cody died, Fitzgerald then talks about how Gatsby never drank due to his relationship with Cody. It was indirectly due to Cody that Gatsby drank so little. This is actually quite odd because the time period they are in was all about drinking, partying, and having a good time.
After Cody died, Jay Gatsby was left with little bit of money, $25,000 to be exact. While the rest of Cody's riches went to Ella Kay, he, Gatsby, was left with his single appropriate education. The vacature of Jay Gatsby had filled out the substantially of a man.
The chapter then cuts to present time. Nick talks about not going to Gatsby's house for a while, but when he finally goes over to Gatsby's to find Tom having a drink with Gatsby and the Sloanes, Gatsby offers Nick various things from cigars to drink. Gatsby seems very nervous since Tom is there. He walked around the room quickly, ringing bells.
Gatsby then confesses to Tom that he knows Daisy, and Tom switches the topic to where Nick lives. Gatsby then invites the Sloanes and Tom to dinner at his house, but then refuses. Miss Sloane invites Nick and Gatsby out to dinner, but Miss Sloane doesn't approve of having Gatsby out for dinner. He, Gatsby, wants to go, and he didn't see that Mr. Sloane had determined he shouldn't, but since it was the time period of partying and doing whatever people wanted, Gatsby went anyways.
Tom is suspicious of Gatsby, but doesn't know that Gatsby is in love with Daisy. 1 week passes after Gatsby's meeting with Tom and Daisy. Gatsby invited Tom and Daisy over to his house for a party. Tom and Nick are discussing how Gatsby came to be so wealthy. Tom says, "Who is this Gatsby anyhow?" demanded Tom suddenly. "Some big bootlegger?"
This upsets Daisy and causes her to get angry at Tom and defend Gatsby. Later, after this, Tom and Daisy leave the party. Gatsby meets back up with Nick. Gatsby is very upset at the fact that Daisy didn't have a great time at his party. Gatsby really wants Daisy to leave Tom for him.
Nick and Gatsby are walking around Gatsby's house after the party. Then Nick starts to think about the first time Gatsby kissed Daisy and how it made him feel. It reminded Nick of something, and the last thing Nick thought was, what I have remembered was uncommunicatable forever.